Hello everybody. So, funny thing happened last night. So I'd said in my last video that none of the lawyers had been able to manage to analyse Amber Heard's brief, her appeal, in under an hour and a half. But then I saw a video last night that had Andrea Burkhart, who's one of the lawyers that use YouTube to analyse celebrity cases, and she did it in 23 minutes. So, oops. Of course, she didn't look at every single thing, and she also reported on it quite a lot later than the others did. But she managed to analyse it and get it down to 4 points. So she believes that of the 16 points that they raised, that there are 4 that are important points and 12 that don't really matter. And the reason she did that, there are 2 reasons. One is that they dedicated more pages for 4 of them than the other 12. 4 or 5 pages each for those 4, so 18 pages between them, and an average of 4.5 pages each. And the other ones, of course, there's 37 pages between 12, an average of 3, but there were actually also some summary ones, so it ended up an average of about 1.5. So that's one reason. The other reason is because the language used, and in the 4 that she believes are their main points, they use the word because. And when you use the word because, you're saying this is true because, and it's a legal argument. Whereas in the other 12, they were apparently using words like obviously and of course, which aren't legal arguments and really just phoning it in. In other words, she's suggesting that those 12 were really just for show, for media, for, you know, women's organisations and whoever else might say, oh, poor Amber, well, she would have won it, just that, you know, the justice system is unfair. And that's going to just annoy judges. Andrea also said that those 4 were not convincing, in her opinion. And the 4, by the way, that she suggested was, number 1, the UK trial. Should have used that and should have just dismissed the whole thing. Number 2, the fact that it could have been heard in California instead of Virginia. And if it had been heard in California, of course they have anti-SLAPP laws. That means that they'd have to prove the case without any evidence, or at least without any discovery. In other words, they can't compel the other side to produce evidence. And in that case, it's pretty sure that they wouldn't have even had a trial. But that kind of earmarks that California's anti-SLAPP laws are a bit unfair and probably should be changed. Nonetheless, those 2 are legitimate legal arguments, but they've already been heard. So they've already been heard, they've already been dismissed, so they're going to the appeals court having, I don't even think it's the 2nd try, I think it's like the 5th try, and they've been turned back every other time. Nonetheless, they're trying again. The 3rd argument, well, there was one about damages, and they said it was manifestly excessive. They went on a bit about how 10 million was too much. They wanted it to be a bit lower, but they didn't say a figure. And they said, oh yeah, well that 10 million includes, you know, things like he was, you know, he got damages from beforehand. So before the op-ed, and that shouldn't be counted and all that sort of stuff. And, oh, now I've forgotten the other one again. So there was a 4th one, and I remembered it before, but then I've forgotten it again. But it was, what was it? Anyway, I'll get to it later. But look, the other thing is that she also, well, she didn't, but I actually had a look, and I did a little Google search, and, you know, yesterday I said there were no articles. Now there's suddenly all these articles. Have they all looked at Andrea Burkhart's YouTube channel and gone, oh, okay, let's summarise the report? And this is a funny thing, because a lot of people say Andrea Burkhart is a Johnny Depp fan, but she's not. She's neutral. She's not a fan of his. And so a lot of these reporters have actually gone on and they've looked at these lawyers who are reporting on these cases on YouTube, and then they write reports based on it. So they kind of had to wait for her to do a nice little 23-minute summary before they could write their reports. So we suddenly got all these newspaper articles. I checked and they all came out since her YouTube video. Isn't that interesting? So maybe of course, maybe they didn't look at her YouTube, but, you know, and I haven't really looked at their reports, but I'm going to suspect that they did that. Because the actual article itself is hard to follow. It's really hard to follow. Like the actual, not the article, but the appeal is really hard to follow. It's hard to make sense of. Seriously, I mean, Andrea Burkhart managed to use essentially a code to work it out, You know, it's pretty silly that it is that hard to follow. Now, I haven't checked to see if the articles, the newspapers, magazines, whatever they are, if they're all saying on Amber Heard's side. Haven't checked that. If the recent lot that came in today were all on her side. I'd expect it to be 50-50, because that's what it's been throughout. Well, not originally. Originally it was more like 80-20 in favour of Amber Heard, but since the trial finished, it's been more like 50-50. On social media, amongst everyday people, it's more like 95-5, massively in favour of Johnny Depp. But amongst the actual print media, the legacy media, some people might say, it's more like 50-50. So, no, they're still 50-50. They're just, and I don't think that's going to drop. Because, as we said a few times, every media outlet has an angle, and they have to report in line with that angle. They're not going to report things that disagree with what their editors and what their staff believe. They all have an angle, and whether it's the individual reporter or more likely the editor/owner of the newspaper or magazine, that's what they're going with. So whatever they believe, if Amber Heard's beliefs or whatever they think are her beliefs align with that, they'll support her, and it doesn't matter what the facts are. And if her beliefs are not what they like, then they will not support her. It doesn't matter what the facts are. So you see this, that social media changes based on the facts. But legacy media doesn't change. They don't care what the facts are. And it's not just this case, and we've got to really highlight that. It is not this case that is particularly unusual. Really, there's no reason for that. No reason for that noise. They could have just gone along quite slowly. There's absolutely no reason to rev the engine there, a quiet little street. But anyway, some people do that. Look at this one, nice and quiet. No reason at all, but some people just like to do that. Not necessarily to upset me, and the same thing, they're just being idiots. But some people like to do that, and it's the same kind of thing. Like, this has nothing to do with this case. The fact that media are so biased with it has nothing to do with this case. You could look at any trial on any topic and you would see biased media. You always, I don't even remember the last time we had media report accurately on any case. Doesn't matter what. The media that are reporting on Johnny Depp aren't reporting accurately. They just have a vested interest to support what he wants. They're not accurate. Of course not. I mean, you could probably look at the two and put them together and say, oh, we might get something a little bit accurate in between them, but you don't really. That's not really how the world works. So, you know, you just got to take it all with a bit of a grain of salt. And I mean, the media can be good about certain other things that they don't have a vested interest in, but, you know, it's just seems as if every year the media gets worse and less genuine, less and less accurate. And it's, but look, I think court cases are where the media just go stupid and they just do not care. They do not care about the accuracy. You'll always get certain media outlets will report it as if on one side's point of view, and certain media outlets will report from the other side. And they don't change halfway through. They don't go, like if they're on the prosecution side, they don't suddenly switch to the defence just because the evidence comes in. No, they're prosecution for life. Same with the defence. If they're on defence's side, they're defence for life. And that's just what you'll get. You know, they may as well be the lawyers in the courtroom, because the lawyers don't change. Doesn't matter how bad their evidence is. If they do end up changing, they'll drop the case. And that's what media outlets do. If they end up changing their mind, they just stop reporting on it. And so I suppose that's where it comes from, maybe. But look, yeah, it is funny that Andrea Burkhart did that report, and then now all the media outlets have got it all out there. Good old Andrea. Good on you. And I mean, that just really highlights that she's really doing a good job there. And equally, I mean, Laura B made this appeal available. That Amber Heard's team didn't make it available, Laura B did. And then everybody else was reporting on it. They're not saying, oh, we got this from Laura B. They're saying, oh, well, this is the link. I mean, I have to assume that Laura B got it. I believe she did. She was certainly the first one that I was aware of that reported it. And people are just not acknowledging their short sources. They're doing summaries that I can perhaps not guarantee, but be fairly confident they got from watching, you know, Andrea Burkhart's videos, or maybe some of the other videos. You don't expect that a newspaper to be able to figure out this mess of an appeal? Goodness no. I can't figure it out. I mean, I'm not saying I'm above them, but seriously, who can figure it out unless you're like really high up in the law? I mean, yeah, these trained lawyers can figure it out, but do you have trained lawyers working for a newspaper? Unlikely. Yeah, maybe they can understand bits of it, but it's just, what? They're going to be going, okay, let's look at a YouTube video. Oh, Andrea, thanks for making sense of that for us. All right, let's write my article now. And their article might be completely disagreeing with Andrea Burkhardt, but they will nonetheless use her insights. So, and there you go. And maybe not necessarily her, there's other ones that have had a go as well, but yeah, it is what it is there, and I guess, yeah. Anyway, that's it from me. Bye-bye now.